It engendered some feelings of being angry about that, and maybe that helped with what I did on camera.
Hey, there's a chick on my app.
Right, I'm just saying women aren't meant to fight. They have tiny, hollow bones.
Don't you think you're doing a lot of genderizing?
What?
Don't be a pussy. Join Cobra Kai.
That was a natural Cobra.
I am so excited to have you here. I'm here with Sean Kanan. You played Mike Barnes in The Karate Kid Part 3. You're an actor, a writer, just an influential figure. And I could not be more thrilled that you agreed to come on this podcast.
Thank you. That's so sweet of you. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, I love just, how involved you've been in martial arts your whole life and how it's really just taken you, all over the place in your world. You wrote a whole book about the way of the Cobra. Oh, it's blending into your green screen.
Oh, it is. Oh, no.
I can see that. Well, I want to start off talking about your early life. You got involved in martial arts pretty young.
Yeah, I think that the first time I walked into a dojo, I was probably around 13 years old. And, I was an undisciplined kid, like I think a lot of young teenagers are. And it really was, it played a pivotal role in my life. I desperately needed some discipline. It taught me respect and humility and self-confidence. And, these are all the very best attributes that somebody can get from studying martial arts. And I was very fortunate to have a wonderful teacher. And it's funny how life works out. My school in Newcastle, Pennsylvania, wound up being absorbed or joining a much bigger organization called the Japan Karate Federation. And that was headed by a gentleman named Master Fumio Demura. And Master Demura, who is a legend, also was Pat Morita's stunt double. And so years and years later, when I would eventually audition for the role of Mike Barnes and eventually get the job, he was just critically instrumental in that whole process for me. So it's almost like, in a weird way, there was a bit of destiny and fate playing a role.
I can hear the Disney World, It's a Small World theme playing in the background as you tell this story in my head. But it's funny how you describe what karate did for you, because I explain it the same way in my own life. Just that I would recommend it to every single kid, the discipline and the self-respect and all the things you just mentioned that it teaches you. I say it all the time, and I can't talk about it enough. So I'm glad.
I'm far and away not the best martial artist around, I'm 54 years old and I do what I can do. But I think that, there's obviously the physical component of martial arts, and you see some amazing people on Instagram doing these wild flying kicks and acrobatics and stuff. And, that's not stuff that I can do. But for me, martial arts is so much more than just that. Of course, I learned how to defend myself, and, I'm very proficient at that, at what I can do. But for me, it's not just about that. It's really about learning kind of what you're made of, learning how to conduct yourself in a class is such a great metaphor for how to conduct yourself at work or in a classroom. Like I said, I was an undisciplined kid, and my teacher was old school Japanese martial arts. And it was yes, sir, no, sir, bow, shoes off before you hit the mat. And there was none of this kind of McDojo crap that goes on where it's like a bunch of little kids in white belts running around like wild Indians. It was actually really interesting to see, when these young undisciplined kids would join the class, and within literally 45 minutes, they were at attention, and their parents were like, "How did you do that? I've been trying to get this kid to clean his room up. He won't do that." Got him like being quiet for 45 minutes and doing exactly what you say.
I love that. And I love that is what karate did for so many people, and that you had a sensei that has that effect. But to the opposite effect, your character seemed to learn none of those lessons throughout his time as a martial artist. And I heard a story about your audition process and some of the interesting things that went down in that audition room. So can you tell me a little bit about the intimidation factor that you left on Ralph Macchio?
Okay, so my one of my martial arts teachers, Sensei Demura, told me there was going to be this open call for the new bad guy in Karate Kid 3. They described him as a 17-year-old white Mike Tyson, which I have never thought of myself as. But I went to the open call. There were like 2,000 people in line. Eventually, I'm expediting this, but eventually John Avildsen picked me out of the line. He brought me into the soundstage. They had created a set. There was Ralph Macchio, and they asked me to. They just said, basically intimidate him. And so I just, sort of threw this downward block. They're like, yeah, and I just kind of, backed him up into a corner. And I was like, oh my God, did I go too far? Like, did I go full psycho? And it seemed to work. And I actually was not the first choice for the film. They hired somebody else before they hired me. And about a week later, they fired the young man, and they brought me back, and the rest is infamy.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad they did. And it's so funny because William Zabka tells a similar story where he thought he went too far in the audition, and Ralph came out and said, you're the only one that really scared me, and that's why you got the role. And so it's so funny how life can imitate art. Like when you go in there and you really sell the character, it usually works out for you. And that's not like the only time we see you intimidate him that is kind of on your own. I also heard that whole scene at the end where you're about to enter the sudden death round and you're just screaming in his face, most of that's ad-libbed, yes?
Yeah, most of that was improv. Almost all of it. There's this really funny moment, if you remember, when I punched Daniel illegally, and I kind of go like that. And that came from, I have a friend named Jim Mercurio. He's been one of my best friends since fourth grade. And we were always getting in trouble as a kid. And whenever our mothers would yell at us, we would kind of go like that. So I just thought it'd be really funny to do it. And it turned out being something that they really liked. And it's just kind of like a little homage to he and I when we were, naughty kids pulling crap.
Oh, that's so funny that it's just like a little... that one little moment too is so funny because it just gives your character, it just enhances your character so much, and you're just like and I giggle every time I see it, and now knowing the backstory is so great. But we don't get a lot of your character's backstory. So when you were going through that process and you're trying to dive into the anger and the hate and all of the stuff that makes up Mike Barnes, where was that all coming from? Did they give you a backstory?
No, I think, the only backstory we knew, it was that Mike Barnes was this tournament champion who had made a name for himself by fighting dirty. And, I think they at one point said he came from, I don't know why it sticks in my head, but he came from like Northern California or something up in the Bay Area. I may be wrong. But, for a 17-year-old guy to find himself in Los Angeles, in the mansion of a guy in a hot tub, giving him, the opportunity to involve himself in this surreptitious plot to really, destroy another person. Obviously not a lot of parental supervision there. So I had always kind of imagined that, Mike might have been, maybe he was kind of a runaway, maybe, definitely probably not a great family background. But no, there wasn't a lot of backstory to him. As far as, what I drew on, I mean, I was pretty severely bullied when I was a young kid, and it had a profound impact on me. And I think it was probably a bit of a combination of drawing on some of the people that have bullied me and sort of excising some of the demons of being bullied and letting it out, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I could imagine how good it felt to let it out too, and just dive really deep into that character and
the emotionality was so high because I had obviously seen the first two films in the theater as a paying customer, and when I stepped onto the set and you're seeing, oh my God, this is the All Valley tournament. This is exactly what it looked like. Everything from the fist on the mat to the the draw up on the wall, and now suddenly I'm the guy. And there's hundreds of extras and there's 8 cameras, so there was a natural adrenaline and energy and electricity in the air anyway, which really helped propel what I was doing.
yeah, that's awesome. And it kind of brings me to my next question, which is, what was it like working on that set with the legendary members of the cast and the crew? And that was one of your first major roles too.
It was surreal. That's the word that I always. I had as a little kid, I used to run home from lunch, and Happy Days was on during lunch. So for me, Pat Morita was Arnold way before he was Mr. Miyagi. So I was, of course I knew who Pat Morita was, and I had seen the first 2 Karate Kid films, and Ralph's the Karate Kid and Sensei Kreese. But very quickly I had to kind of detach myself from the pinch me moment, and the sort of, I don't know, the surrealness of the situation, because I had a job to do. And it was a big budget picture. It was the 3rd installment of a successful worldwide franchise, and there was a lot of pressure on me because I was the unknown commodity. I mean, they knew what to expect from Ralph and Marty and Pat, and because this was the first big film that I had done, they were really on me. When you do a film, there's a whole vocabulary that goes on with filming. I'll give you an example. If somebody says "kill the baby," they're referencing a small light that needs to be turned up. But you hear "kill the baby," and you're like, "What?" And you hear all, there's checking the gate. All of these different terms. So aside from the fact that I didn't really know how to do things like find my light, I didn't understand camera, I didn't understand the language. So there was a lot of stuff I had to learn very, very quickly, which they made sure I did. And in retrospect, what an amazing opportunity for a young actor to look. You can study acting class all you want, but until you get on a set and you have the pressure of time is money and you're burning film. I mean, now they shoot digitally for most things, but when you're burning film, every take that doesn't work is expensive. And so it was an amazing sort of on the job training for me that, as I went to my next job, having had that under my belt made it much easier for me.
Yeah, that's such an amazing place to start too. Like, what a way to kick off an acting career,
right?
In a franchise like that. But I wonder now, because I'm not an actor, so this is a question that I've always wondered. When you have to create tension the way that you do between your character and Daniel's, Ralph's character, is there a friendship that builds off set, or do you kind of keep separate to keep the tension up?
Ralph could not have been nicer. He's a great guy. And for me, if I'm being completely honest, I really wanted to be friends with him. I think I asked him out for dinner a couple times and we didn't wind up going, but I think in retrospect, Ralph wisely, along with production, wanted to keep me very separate. And I think, again, if I'm being really honest, psychologically, it pissed me off. And I even think they had an event or a barbecue or something and didn't invite me. I'm pretty sure. And I think they did that specifically because they wanted to keep me away from Ralph. And it worked. It engendered some feelings of being angry about that. And, maybe that helped with what I did on camera.
That's so funny. I mean, I can't imagine as like a newbie actor just not getting invited to things and not really being able to talk to your co-star essentially, and just
Well, I mean, no.
being
Look,
confused.
I certainly talked to Ralph on and off the set, and he couldn't have been nicer. And I've seen Ralph subsequent to the film many, many times, and he's a great guy. But I think for the the time period, the microcosmic time period that was the film, they wanted to keep us separate, and they wanted, me to feel a little alienated. And I think they were very wise to do that.
That's so funny. Yeah, I had always wondered how you create tension when you have two nice guys and they're supposed to play enemies.
It's acting. It's the same thing as how do you create physical chemistry with somebody that you're not emotionally involved with. It's acting, and you got to be able to kind of turn it on and turn it off.
Definitely not a skill that I have. I'm a emotions on my sleeve kind of person.
See, that's how I am. That's how I am in my real life. I'm like that. I'll tell you another story. I've worked a lot in soap operas, and when my wife and I got married, part of doing soap operas is there's a lot of love scenes, and believe me, I wouldn't be able to deal with it. And what I did, and this was actually, I give myself some credit, it was pretty smart. I brought my wife to the set one day, not to watch me do a love scene, but I wanted to introduce her to the other actresses. So she knew that, we're not going and having wine and cheese in each other's dressing rooms. We're not going out for drinks after. And it's like, we do our job and they're going home to their lives and significant others. And I'm doing the same. And, as soon as I diffused that, it's never really been an issue. And she understands that, it was the sort of thing where if I need to do it, I kind of, I'm able to do it, and it's done. And there's emotionality only during the scene itself, and that it doesn't, permeate afterwards into real life.
Yeah, I can't imagine how hard it is in today's day and age now with the young actors because of social media and things. You've got fan accounts that are, shipping these two actors together, and it's got to be hard with your personal life, and not really probably not wanting to detail your personal life to the public, but also not wanting them to, pair you with every co-star you have.
Right. Well, listen, I haven't been involved in soap operas for, I don't know, 5 years probably. And so, I've been fortunate now. I'm, have my own show, Studio City, on Amazon Prime, and been fortunate that lately I've been doing a lot of films, and so I haven't had any love scenes, which is fine with me. They can be a little stressful sometimes. So
Yeah. Well, going back to the Karate Kid, and kind of transitioning into how your writing career came about too, is you suffered a really severe injury on the set.
I did. I had internal bleeding. Christmas Day, 1988, I was in the emergency room of Humana Sunrise Hospital fighting for my life. I was having a lot of pain in my left thigh. We broke for Christmas, and I was taking a lot of aspirin. Again, long story short, I was bleeding internally, and the aspirin was exacerbating the bleeding, and I was bleeding to death. I went into shock, had to have emergency life-saving surgery, and had to fight my way back into the film. They were going to recast me, and then they decided they were going to keep me but have a stunt man. And I was able to physically rehabilitate myself and go back and wound up doing all of my own martial arts.
That's crazy. How fast was that process?
Extremely, maybe like 10 days. I mean, I was discharged against medical advice. I left and I had 12 inches of staples on my abdomen. And it was in retrospect, it probably was not the smartest thing to do, but I was just, I got angry. I mean, I was like, there's no way after fighting this hard to get into this film that I'm going to have this taken away from me. And one of the things I talk about in Way the Cobra is the necessity to have a why. And your why is that thing that will get you up off the ground when you've had your ass kicked, and it will propel you, and it will cause you to jump out of bed at 5 a.m. with passion to do what it is that you love. And my why in that moment was, I am not going to lose this part. And that why was powerful enough to give me the force of will and to summon up, what I needed to summon up within me to get the job done.
Yeah, that's unreal what you were able to accomplish in those 10 days. Which leads me to the book. I am so excited, honestly. I can't wait to purchase one myself. When you go on the website, you look at the about, and the first thing that I saw was this quote from Winston Churchill. And I already loved this quote. So to see it on your book just made me want to buy it. And for those of you who don't know what it is, I have it like right here in front of me so I don't get it wrong. But it's success is the ability to go from one failure to another with no loss of enthusiasm.
Right.
One of my favorite quotes of all time. Do you remember like the first time you saw that, or what made you choose that quote in particular?
I've always been a big fan of Winston Churchill. I actually quote him several times throughout the book. Can you imagine the force of will and perseverance it must have taken to lead, a relatively small island nation against the most frightening war machine that, man had ever seen up until that point, against the Nazis, and in the face of constant bombardment and what looked like very well the UK could have been taken over by Germany. He said, no, that's not going to happen. And so I've just always admired him. And I think a lot of times in life we don't win, and I talk about the necessity. I call it the F word, failure. And I put it in quotes because I believe that, it's only a failure if it keeps you from trying again. But failure could be a wonderful teacher. It could be a painful teacher, but a wonderful teacher. And, the ability to continue on going from circumstance to circumstance, sometimes not achieving the results you want, but continuing to do so with passion and enthusiasm will eventually lead you to achieving success.
Yeah. So the way of the Cobra, guys, much different from the way of the fist, I have to say. But I love that, you include a little piece of the Karate Kid, because that's, I think, where a lot of the inspiration came from.
Yeah, there's a lot of autobiographical stories in this that I tie to lessons. For those people that aren't familiar with the book, it's set up in the construct that you are a student in my dojo, the dojo of Cobra life. I'm the sensei. So what is a Cobra? Well, Cobra is an acronym formed from the words character, optimization, balance, respect, and abundance. A Cobra is somebody that has unleashed their inner badass. And I say that everybody's got an inner badass. You may not have discovered yours. It may have gotten lost along the way. It needs to be dusted off and thrown back into the game, but you have one. And I know these strategies work because these are the strategies that I use to make some monumental changes in my life. About 3 years ago, I was in a place where I had some pretty big success. I had a couple of epic failures. I was 35 pounds overweight with no potential for work on the horizon. And I realized I needed to do some things very differently, very quickly. And the first thing I did was I decided, okay, rather than wait for my ship to come in, I was going to build the damn ship. And I just had to figure out how I was going to do it. And so by doing some things very differently, very quickly, in that 1 year, I managed to co-author Success Factor X, my second book, which became an Amazon new release bestseller. It was named one of the 20 most influential books by Book Authority. I created Studio City, which is my show that is on Amazon Prime. We were nominated for 8 Emmys. We won 1, and I lost the 35 pounds. And I don't say this to impress people, but I say to impress upon you what is possible. And these are the strategies that I know work. And, look, if I can do it, you can do it. I am in many ways a very normal human being. I just have figured a few things out, and I know the information in the book is transformative. And one of my, mantras is transform yourself and you can transform the world.
Yeah, it's in a very similar way, kind of ties it into the Cobra Kai show where Johnny tells the kids to go flip their script. They don't like what their life looks like, go change it, go do something. And you're giving people, a path to do that. Whereas I think Johnny just kind of threw it out there, like, go change yourself. You don't want to be a nerd. Don't be a nerd. Like, yeah. But you're giving people a path.
Yeah. And if you'd like to get the book, you can get it at wayofthecobra.com. And I'm going to offer a discount for your viewers, which is BIANCO, which will get you 15% off the book. And, look, I'm doing a lot of podcasts and promotion for the book because I want to sell books, of course. But honestly, and from the bottom of my heart, I want to get this book in people's hands. And, some people have said, they've go, oh, you're just trying to piggyback Cobra Kai and milk it. And I said, well, that's not entirely untrue. But the reason is this. Cobra Kai has become such a worldwide phenomenon, and I am certainly a member of the Cobra Kai. And this book will not be able to help people if I gave it a different title and 5 people buy it, 3 of whom are, my family members. Yeah. I need something that is going to become widely associable with something successful with a built-in fan base so that I can get it in the hands of people so that they can read it. And I'll tell you, it's amazing what's going on right now. I've got people who have gotten the book from all over the world, and they email me and they Instagram DM me, and they tell me what's going on in their lives. And they tell me how by applying the stuff in this book, they are seeing unbelievable changes in their life. And that makes me so happy. It makes me feel really fulfilled.
Yeah, I find it, and I don't think that, I think you're doing the right thing by essentially, piggybacking off the show because you need a reason. And so the show is giving you the reason to want to change these things in your life. And I talk about this all the time, how incredible the show is in bringing up issues that everybody has in their regular everyday life. And it's a dramatization of these things. So it's not going to show you how to solve the problem, but it is going to shine a light on those problems. And it's on you to go into your own life and solve the problems for yourself. So the fact that there is something out there that is showing you how to do that and coaching you through that is amazing.
In the introduction of the book, I say, look, I got good news and I got bad news. So if you're like me and Don Corleone, you insist on getting the bad news first. So here it is. I don't have a secret potion or a magic bullet that is going to instantly turn you into the uber successful, driven beast that you want to become. But here's the good news. It's like the Zen riddle. How did the ship get in the bottle? It was already there. Everything you need is already within you to achieve what you want. You just have to learn how to tap into it. And in order to do that, I say there are 2 things you have to do. The first thing you have to do is you have to accept that the universe wants you to win. How do I know that? Well, we are hardwired in our DNA to survive. How does a baby know not to breathe when its face goes underwater? For 200,000 years, Homo sapiens were not the apex predators. We were running around in loincloths, outsmarting saber-toothed tigers. And where are those ferocious felines now? They're a footnote, in an anthropology book, and we are now the dominant species on the planet. So it's in our DNA to survive, and survival is the very basis of success. You can't succeed if you're not around to do it, right? The second thing is that you have to say, where I am is who I am. Where I am in my life right now, whether I like it or not, is the sum decision of all of the choices that you have made, both the good ones and the questionable ones. And, it's not a result of mommy not loving you enough or daddy telling you you're not good enough or anything else. You are responsible for where you are. And I say that victimhood has no place in my dojo. If you can accept those 2 things and acknowledge them, now you're ready to make change. Now you're ready to learn.
Yeah. everything you're saying is all true, and I completely agree. My analogy for changing your life is kind of like jumping off the deep end, diving off the deep end.
Right.
Everybody else can get you there, and they can get you standing on top of that diving board, and they can be cheering you on, and they can tell you exactly how to do it. But until you jump, nothing is going to happen.
Kinetic action. There's an old joke. So there's 5 frogs and they're on a log, and 4 of them decide to jump off. How many frogs are left?
How many?
There's 5. There's 5.
There's 1 frog left if 4 jump.
5. All they did was decide. They didn't take action. So you have to take kinetic action in order to make change. And if you want new results, it requires new actions. So if what you're doing in your life is not working for you, then you need to come up with new actions to get new results.
Yeah. No, I agree. Just talking about it or just thinking it doesn't mean you're doing it. That's absolutely true. And I think it's so great that you use this dojo analogy, and that is the way that you tie it in, but it is absolutely nothing like the Cobra Kai dojo that we see in the movies, in the show. Like, that is not what it is.
I don't even reference the show in the book. I talk about, the fact that I was auditioning for the newest member of the Cobra Kai, meaning the film, but this is not a book for martial artists or Karate Kid or Cobra Kai fans. Martial artists, Karate Kid fans, and Cobra Kai fans will love this book, but it's not specifically for them. It just is using the construct of the dojo and the sensei-student relationship as a way of making the book fun. I mean, it's irreverent and it's cheeky and funny. And it's not a difficult read. And like I said, I include a lot of stories that are very personal that I don't think most people know about me. And then I tie them in to the strategies, philosophy, and lessons to help you make the changes.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. I can't wait to get one, to read one.
Right.
I know, I'm young. I have a lot of changes still left to make in my life. I'm about to start, or I am in the process of starting like my job hunt. I'm going to graduate in a month. I have no idea where I'm going. No idea what I'm doing, but
let me give you a little advice. I get asked a lot, especially by people your age, maybe even younger. They say, okay, could you just give me some nuts and bolts things that I can do to become successful? And I've distilled it down in the book to 4 things. And I say, if you can do these 4 things, you've got about a 95% chance of being successful in life. You may not achieve the exact success that you envision, but you will be a successful human being. And you don't even need to be the most talented individual in the room. So the first thing is really simple. We learned it in kindergarten. It's the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Treat people with respect and dignity and the way that you want to be treated. If you can learn that, that will take you very far in the workplace and in modern society. We have become a society that is so divided, so divisive, so vitriolic, that rather than being able to disagree with each other's positions, people now have to eviscerate and cancel you as a human being, which is absurd. That's the first thing. The second thing is to treat people with empathy, to look at people with empathy. You see somebody waiting for a bus by themselves. You see some old person, taking too long in line at the pharmacy, rummaging through their purse. You don't know what private battles those people are fighting. You don't know if that woman, rummaging to find enough money in her purse is trying to buy medicine she can't afford for her husband who's dying. And you don't know if that guy who's, looks distraught at the bus stop is fighting, substance abuse. You don't know if that single mother is a woman who's suffering abuse. So if you look at people with empathy, that will go a long way towards grounding you and making you a better human being. The third thing, act with integrity. Do what you say what you mean, be dependable, show up. Don't do it just because it's, other people are watching. Do it because that's the essence of your character, and character is everything. Character determines your life. There's nothing more important than character. And the last thing is grind. And by grind, I mean, get your ass out of bed, do the things you don't want to do, and keep working hard toward your goals. And, it's kind of like compound interest in the bank. You check your balance every day, you're going to see fractions of pennies adding up. And by the way, if you keep your money in a savings account, you're an idiot. And that's a whole other conversation we should have. But anyway, over the course of just doing the right thing consistently, day after day, you might not see a whole lot of results in 3 days. But when you look back in 30 days, you're going to go, wow, look what I've achieved. Look at where I've come from in just 30 days. And you do it over the course of a year, and it can be monumental.
Yeah. I think what's so interesting about those 4 points, and something that I feel like I've noticed about people in my short time on this earth, is that every single person that you talk to is lacking in at least one of those things, if not more. And so there is always work that you could be doing in one of those categories. And I know for me, in the past year, that has been grind. I feel like the pandemic and just the situation of not being able to go to class in person, not being able to, has caused this almost depression-like state of plateauing in my life and in my grind. And I know that. And so now, as I get closer to trying to do this job hunt, I mean, it's on me, but it's also on me to ask people for help. And so I've asked my parents, like, get on me about applying to jobs, send me stuff. If you think something looks interesting, like something that you think I might be good at, send it to me, like encourage me to keep applying to things, because I'll get to a point where it'll be a day where I have a day off. And I'm like, I have a day off. I'm going to sleep till, 11 or noon. And then I'm going to get up and I'm not going to do anything. Like, so definitely grinding has been something I got to work on.
That'll help you. First of all, I can't imagine you're the only person in your age group that is about to embark on this pursuit. Am I right?
No, everybody.
Call one of your friends and make an agreement with them that you are going to hold each other accountable and discuss what it is that you need to accomplish for that week. And know that at the end of the week, you have to check in with them and tell them, have you accomplished what you said you're going to do, and hold them accountable. And the other strategy I'm going to give you that I really credit with making huge changes in my life is, we've all heard the saying, carpe diem, right? Seize the day. Well, I have coined the phrase carpe mane, which means seize the morning, dominate the morning. If you can get up 90 minutes earlier than you usually do, before the chaos of the outside world has begun to bombard you, and start your day by doing a couple simple things, it will change the trajectory of your day. The first thing, and this is not a theological discussion, I get on my knees every day. I thank God for 5 things so that I'm living my life in gratitude. If you're an atheist, fine. Make a list of 5 things you're thankful for. What it does is it puts you in the present. It makes you full of, it fills you with gratitude, and you're living in the present. You're not living in the past, or you're not worrying about the future. The second thing I do is I meditate. I meditate for about 5 minutes. And a great little hack for that is to use the timer on your phone, or if you have, Echo or whatever, just set it for 5 minutes. And if you haven't meditated before, there's, YouTube videos, or I specifically teach you in my book how to do it. And what that does is it shuts out the monkey chatter, that constant internal monologue that we have of things I want to do. What do I want to eat? I'm thinking about this guy, this girl, blah, 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 blah. The next thing, and I don't do this all the time, but is do some journaling. And by journaling, I mean stream of conscious writing for like 3 minutes. And it will not immediately turn you into a 6th grade girl writing in her diary. And I literally will get up sometimes and I'll go, I don't want to be writing. I'm tired. I want more coffee. This sucks. This is shit. I have a lot to do today, blah, blah, blah. But what it does is it gets that crap out of your head, and then you throw it away. And it has a remarkable ability to help focus you. Then I do some visualization. And, I think about, what do I have to do that day? Who do I have to talk to on the phone? What goal do I want to achieve in each of those things? And I play it through, watching it happen successfully. And look, things never happen the way you want them to happen. So you can visualize things and life is going to throw you curveballs, but at least it sets you mentally towards having an idea of how you want things to end. It's like Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a plan till they get punched in the mouth. I mean, life will punch you in the mouth sometimes, but it's better to at least have laid the groundwork for it. So I do that. And it can be something as simple as, like, say you have a business meeting and you have to go somewhere in your town or city that you've never been. I literally will think about, okay, what's the route I'm going to take? I'll visualize getting there. I'll visualize, the first time that I meet the other person, shaking their hand, looking them in the eye, getting them to smile. And then I also think I'm a big proponent of the win-win scenario. There's very few times in life where I have to win. You have to lose for me to win. Sometimes in life, but very, very rarely. So I always think, how can I bring value to the other person, not just to myself? So I envision that too. The last thing is read. If you can read 20 pages a day of anything, reading is the great equalizer. If you don't have a formal education, if you don't have money, if you're incarcerated, it can teach you the thoughts and words of great men and women, great thinkers. It can take you to distant lands that you might not have the money to see. And over the course of a year, reading 20 pages or so a day, you will be able to fill your head with so much wonderful new information that it expands your horizons and it broadens you as a human being.
Yeah, I mean, I love all four of those. And for anybody who's like me, I mean, I just started working on getting into meditation as something that I'm trying out, as one of my many things that I'm trying out in self-betterment over the course of the pandemic. I have a dog. I find that a great way to get me started in my meditative process is to go for a walk with her in the morning. So even though I'm not just sitting there, because sometimes when I'm just sitting there in my own head, I can't actually block out all the other thoughts. I find it even harder to meditate. But when I'm walking and when I'm walking her and I'm focused on that, I find that all the other stuff kind of goes out of my head and I'm able to just be in the moment walking her.
This is the reason why, the samurai were obligated to study an instrument. They studied calligraphy, and they were also very adept at bonsai, and all of those seemingly ostensibly traditional female gender roles were imperative because these guys were like, they were bad motherfuckers, and they were maniacs, and they needed something to balance them out so that they weren't just violent brutes, but they were also rooted in philosophy and the Bushido code, which is, loyalty and respect and this and that. And those pursuits were actually meditative for them. It required so much concentration to do calligraphy or to play an instrument. I think I study Mandarin Chinese, I study some Russian, I've studied Italian for years, and I study languages for a lot of different reasons, but specifically with Mandarin, it's so difficult that it really, for the hour or so that I'm studying, forces me to block everything else out. I mean, I cannot split my attention when I'm doing this, or it just goes in one ear and out the other. So find something, like you said, walking your dog. It doesn't have to be sitting in silence. I suggest it because it's a discipline, but if you can't do that, then, even if you're sitting in a room listening to, relaxing music or whatever it may be, find what's meditative for you. It could be building a model airplane.
Yeah. Yeah. And I call it like the bridge, because then eventually it becomes easier for you to just sit there and to discipline yourself. Because once you learn how to block out those thoughts and the everything, then I've now found it easier to sit by myself, and that discipline comes easier. So like almost as a way to bridge the gap between not knowing how to meditate and not knowing how to block your thoughts out and not knowing how to get there, like doing something like that, like building an airplane, like, going for a walk, whatever it is, helps you. It's almost a stepping stone in a way. But before we get out of here, because I know you have to go soon, I do want to ask you one more question, because you've got like 5 more minutes left here. And I have to ask it, what are just some of the craziest theories that you've heard about Mike Barnes? Because I know a lot of people want to see him show up in Cobra Kai.
Right. One of the funniest ones I thought was that Daniel and Johnny get assigned by the court to go to anger management, and Mike Barnes is their anger management counselor.
Oh, that's such a good one.
He's got like puka shells, and he's got Birkenstocks, and he's got friendship bracelets, and he's like, "Hey guys, it's me, Mike.
Let's meditate."
Right? I don't know. You know, I people have asked me what I think would have happened to him. You know, I'm a fan of redemption, so I would have liked, you know, I'd like to see possibly, you know, Mike had gone to the military and gotten straightened out and become an officer and somebody that learned about honor and all of that stuff. But, you know, when he resurfaces into the story of Cobra Kai, you know, something happens and the old switch gets flipped, and we see that, you know, Mike still can be a dangerous individual when he needs to be. Or, you know, maybe he just continued to go down the wrong path. You know, maybe he wound up in prison for a while and got out and is, you know, a vicious MMA fighter. I don't know. We shall see.
A lot of people have speculated in the very first episode when Johnny gets fired, he's like, you gotta, and they say Mike is the guy that he's talking to. And a lot of people think you're some crooked businessman that has been there since day one, actually, all along, which is one of my favorites.
It's really fun to have people speculate about that. You know, I can neither confirm nor deny. I like to
I'm not asking.
Seeing the last of Mike Barnes, you know, it's a character that it's amazing to me that this guy that was such a bad guy is so loved by the audience. So I mean, it's really flattering for me that a role I did 30 some years ago still has some interest and relevance after all these years.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'd love to see you on the show. And I think that'd be super fun. And hopefully you'd get a redemption arc if that ever happened, because I'm a big fan of that as well.
Me too.
Yeah, so before we head out, I just want to let everybody know that if you go to it's wayofthecobra.com
and you put the code BIANCO in, you'll get a 15% discount on the book. And you can follow me at Sean Kanan on Instagram and at Sean Kanan on Twitter. And, you know, I do my best to try and get back to everybody who reaches out to me. So I look forward to hearing what people think of the book. Toni, when you get the book, I look forward to hearing what you think of it. And we can do this again sometime.
Yes, absolutely. I hope I could have you back on after I've read it. We can go into a deeper discussion. I love talking about things like this, especially, and I think it's my podcast is a great place to just get all the issues out. That's where hopefully what I can do with this. But yeah, I'm going to have everything linked in the description below, and all of your stuff's going to pop up on the screen for any of you people who are too lazy to look in the description. It'll be right below us. So I encourage everybody to go get the book, to follow Sean, see what he's been up to. I know you've got lots of projects that you've been in lately. So thank you so much for coming on here.
I want to wish you, I don't want to say good luck. I want to say good work with getting, entering into the job market. And I hope that a couple things we discussed today, you can take to heart and employ those. And please keep in touch with me. I want to hear what happens with you. Okay.
Absolutely.
All the best.